In our headlines on this Tuesday, June 30th, here in South Korea, the government announces a host of policy changes to take effect starting July 1st that look to affect stock market investments, movie theatre attendance, and overall public accessibility. Meanwhile, the latest tally shows over 1,700 people have lost their lives to the twin tremors in the capital area in Venezuela last Wednesday. And US President Donald Trump says negotiations with Tehran are set for Tuesday in Doha, but the Islamic Republic insists no meetings are scheduled. We are one day away from ushering in the second half of 2026, and there are a host of policy changes that could affect your wallets, stock market investments, and more. Our Baek Joo-hee breaks them down.
Starting July 1st, Korea's interbank foreign exchange market will operate 24 hours a day on weekdays. This will allow global investors and domestic firms to trade currencies in real time and immediately hedge financial risks. The Finance Ministry says this is part of the roadmap to joining the MSCI Developed Markets Index. The local stock market is also tightening rules to weed out penny stocks trading under 1,000 won or 65 US cents. This cleanup aims to remove weak companies vulnerable to unfair trading, such as stock price manipulation, while boosting the market's overall credibility. Currently, 210 companies, which account for about 7% of all listed stocks, fall into this category, with 141 listed on the Kosdaq. Under the new criteria, a stock under 1,000 won for 30 consecutive trading days will be flagged as an administrative issue. It faces automatic delisting if it fails to stay above the threshold for 45 consecutive days within the 90-day grace period. Furthermore, the government will select regional growth engine industries in the fourth quarter. Moving away from scattered individual incentives, the government will provide an all-in-one package integrating subsidies, R&D, and infrastructure. Investing companies can receive a subsidy covering up to 25% of their corporate investment alongside low-interest loans. Plus, young employees at these firms will get up to a 90% income tax exemption for 5 years, as well as housing support near industrial complexes. From sharpening market competitiveness to household living cost, the second half policies aim to reshape Korea's economic landscape. Baek Joo-hee, Arirang News.
Beyond those changes on the economic front, there are others aimed at making daily life more affordable and accessible. Our Park Chae-ryung tells us what they are.
One of the most notable measures is the government's support for cultural consumption among the public. In July, 4.5 million movie ticket discount coupons, each worth 6,000 won, will be distributed on a first-come, first-served basis. Each person can receive up to 2 coupons, which can be used at major theater chains, including CGV, Lotte Cinema, Megabox, CineQ, and independent cinemas. Mom and dad will be able to take more days off for their children. Starting August, workers will be allowed to take 1 or 2 weeks of paid parental leave once a year when short-term care is needed for children aged 8 or younger, such as when a child is sick or when daycare centers or schools are closed. Support measures for male workers will also be expanded in September. The new system allows male workers to take up to 5 days off when their wives go through a miscarriage or stillbirth. The booking period for train tickets will also be expanded. The government said the reservation period for train tickets will be extended to 2 months before departure. Until now, train tickets could only be booked 1 month in advance, unlike flights and accommodation which are usually available for reservation around 2 months ahead of time. The government said the change reflects public inconvenience over the shorter booking window for train travel. The government will upgrade the AI-powered search function on Gov't24, allowing users to ask questions in everyday language even if they do not know the exact administrative terms. The system will identify the user's intent and provide personalized information based on user data and conversation details from among some 20,000 civil service and benefit programs available on Gov't24. Park Chae-ryung, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, the Culture Ministry here has unveiled a 5-year plan to bolster South Korea's craft industry and boost its presence overseas. Under this ambitious plan, the government will seek to nurture craft talent and expand market access via new retail hubs for foreign visitors and year-round exhibitions across online and offline platforms. The goal is to raise industry sales from 5.8 trillion won in 2024 to 9 trillion won by the year 2030, while doubling exports to $4 billion. Over in Venezuela, stories of miraculous rescues after the crucial 72-hour survival window have many praying for a similar fate for their missing loved ones, even as the latest death toll soars. Our Chung Hae-rim reports.
The death toll from last week's twin earthquakes in Venezuela has risen again as the search for survivors continues. National Assembly President Jorge Rodriguez said on Monday that at least 1,700 people had been killed and more than 5,000 injured. The magnitude 7.5 and 7.2 quakes struck last Wednesday night, hitting La Guaira state and the capital Caracas particularly hard. More than 500 aftershocks have been recorded since then, including a magnitude 4.9 tremor early Monday, according to the UN. Despite passing the critical 72-hour golden window, where the probability of survival is highest, crews have pulled off several miraculous rescues. On Sunday, an international coalition rescued 7 people alive from the rubble, including a 21-year-old man and a woman with her baby. According to a damage assessment released by NASA, it is estimated that more than 58,000 buildings have been damaged or destroyed. Meanwhile, the U.S. Geological Survey has issued a statistical model indicating there is a 44% probability that the final death toll will equal or exceed 10,000.
I can give you a proxy indicator. We are procuring, and this is something that has been agreed with the authorities here, 10,000 body bags.
The official also stated more than 25,000 emergency workers, police officers, and soldiers have been deployed, while international search and rescue teams continue to support operations on the ground. Chung Hae-rim, Arirang News.
In other news, conflicting remarks continue to plague peace efforts between the Trump administration and Tehran, rendering uncertain prospects of a face-to-face meeting in Doha this week. Our Lee Seung-jae has the latest.
President Donald Trump said Monday that Iran had requested a meeting with U.S. officials, but Tehran denied that any new negotiations were currently planned following fresh attacks across the Persian Gulf over the weekend. Trump wrote on social media that a meeting between the two sides would take place on Tuesday in Doha, Qatar. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt later said Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and the president's son-in-law Jared Kushner would travel to Qatar for the talks. Iran, however, pushed back against those claims, insisting that no negotiations with the United States are scheduled at any level in the coming days. Speaking to reporters, Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman and negotiating team representative Ismail Bakai stated that Tehran's immediate priority is implementing the Memorandum of Understanding aimed at ending the conflict rather than initiating discussions on a broader agreement. He dismissed reports of a possible meeting with senior U.S. officials in Qatar, stressing that any American visit to Doha would not be related to Iran. The United States and Iran reached an interim agreement earlier this month that requires Tehran to dilute its stockpile of enriched uranium while providing sanctions relief backed by Washington. The deal also calls for the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and gives both sides 60 days to negotiate a broader and more comprehensive agreement. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Indeed, the Strait of Hormuz appears to be aggravating prospects of peace between Mr. Trump and Tehran as the latter pushes ahead with its efforts to gain leverage over this critical waterway. Our Cha Yoon-kyung has details.
Tensions remain in the Strait of Hormuz, despite the U.S.-Iran Memorandum of Understanding to end the war. Iran is pressing Oman, which controls the other side of the waterway, reiterating that it will have the exclusive right to control maritime traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Qasem Gharibabadi said on Monday local time that Tehran will persist with its own plans if Oman is not willing to work out an agreement. Gharibabadi also said that he's planning to hold a meeting with Oman in a few days to discuss current issues. Gharibabadi added that Tehran opposes vessels passing through the Strait of Hormuz on routes not designated by Tehran and will block those ships. He also drew a line under France's proposal to demine the waterway in coordination with its allies, saying the operation will be carried out exclusively by Iran. Western countries, including the U.S., have strongly protested Iran's statement, citing that it would be the privatization of an international waterway. As shipping businesses are being forced to pay a toll fee, logistical disturbance is becoming a reality, casting a cloud over the global economy and energy supplies due to the surge in distribution costs. 차윤경, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, all but 2 South Korean ships have safely passed through the Strait of Hormuz. Speaking at a cabinet meeting on this Tuesday, President Lee Jae-myung added that the 2 remaining vessels are there owing to certain circumstances. Details were not disclosed. He also highlighted the importance of maintaining an emergency response posture and of seeking ways to diversify supply chains of energy and raw materials. South Korea's industrial output lost ground yet again in May in light of weaker chip production. Our Lee Ji-yeon has the latest findings.
Korea's industrial output fell for a second straight month in May. According to the National Data Agency on Tuesday, all industry production declined 0.3% compared to the previous month. Industrial output was up in February and March, but slipped 0.4% in April. It went down again in May, dropping for a second consecutive month. By sector, services output was up 1.3%, with a recovery in consumer confidence and a jump in foreign visitors helping fuel the bounce. Automobiles and petroleum refining both posted month-on-month increase, with petroleum refining marking its sharpest rise since September 2023. However, these gains were wiped out by a massive 10% drop in semiconductor production, alongside a sharp decline in pharmaceutical. The government pointed out that the drop in industrial output is mostly a correction following months of big gains in semiconductor production.
While domestic demand indicators like retail sales and services output rebounded from the impact of the Middle East war, industrial production fell in May due to production pacing and a decline in chip output.
Meanwhile, in terms of spending, goods consumption managed a slight 0.1% increase from the previous month. Construction investment rose about 4%, largely driven by massive projects, including new chip factories. The government expressed optimism for the future, noting that the global risks are fading after the recent U.S.-Iran peace agreement. Officials predict that the major economic indicators will show a steady improvement moving forward. Lee Ju-yeon, Arirang News.
Also on the domestic front, domestic travel rose last year, according to findings by the Culture Ministry and the Korea Culture and Tourism Institute. On this Tuesday, 97% of Koreans took at least one domestic trip in 2025, up 1.6 percentage points on year. In light of this rise, domestic travel spending also rose to hit a record high of 39.5 trillion won, or over $25 billion, up more than 7% on year. Furthermore, travel demand spread beyond the Greater Seoul area, with the city of Daejeon witnessing a remarkable surge in the number of travel days. On the political front, tensions at the parliament over key committee positions are escalating as the ruling party prepares to take unilateral action. Our National Assembly correspondent Moon Hae-ryun explains.
Korea's ruling Democratic Party said Tuesday it is prepared to unilaterally elect 11 parliamentary committee chairs, including the powerful Legislation and Judiciary Committee, after talks with the opposition People Power Party collapsed again. A plenary vote set for 2 p.m. was pushed back. The standoff has stalled committee formation for the second half of the 22nd National Assembly's term, which began this month with the election of a new speaker. The Legislation and Judiciary Committee, which screens bills before final votes, remains the main sticking point. Democratic Party floor leader Han Byung-do said his party offered to split the 18 chairmanships 11-7 in its own favor, while keeping the Legislation and Judiciary Committee chair, an offer the opposition rejected. He said the opposition was the one standing in the way.
We can no longer wait for the People Power Party, which refuses to negotiate, won't submit its list of nominees, and ignores the National Assembly Act by insisting on the Legislation and Judiciary Committee.
People Power Party floor leader Chung Dong-sik said the opposition's only demand was to take back the committee from the Democratic Party.
The People Power Party has only one demand: to restore the Legislation and Judiciary Committee to normal after it became an arena of extreme conflict between the rival parties over the past 2 years.
Separately, a parliamentary committee on Tuesday adopted a confirmation hearing report for Prime Minister nominee Han Song-suk, clearing the way for a plenary vote later Tuesday. People Power Party members boycotted the meeting. With 161 of the Assembly's 300 seats, the Democratic Party can confirm Han alone. 문혜련, Arirang News.
South Korea's first safety-certified electric aircraft has opened its doors to passenger service. That being said, our Kim Jun-ho was in the air to bring us this report.
An electric aircraft leaves the ground. That's followed by a fuel-powered aircraft. Revealing just how quiet the electric plane really is. Developed by Korean startup Tough Mobility, this electric aircraft became the first in Asia to earn safety certification. I'm now in the air above Hwasong, Gyeonggi-do province, traveling at a speed of over 200 kilometers per hour. The aircraft lifted off with remarkable ease, and the ride feels smooth, fast, and impressively quiet. Much like an electric vehicle on the road, this plane plugs in to power up. A 1-hour charge is enough to keep it flying for up to 80 minutes. It also produces about 1/10 the noise of an aircraft powered by a regular engine. And with electric motors replacing the engine, there are no exhaust emissions.
I used to fly fighter jets in the Air Force, and I can really feel the difference. This one is much quieter and has far less vibration. Flying without carbon emissions also makes me feel like I'm contributing to a more sustainable future.
Lower operating prices are another key advantage. Rising fuel costs during the recent Middle East conflict have made electric aircraft an increasingly attractive alternative. They also contain fewer components than conventional aircraft, making maintenance simpler and less expensive. Sightseeing flights on this aircraft are now underway over the West Sea. With that, Korea is now the world's 12th country to bring electric aircraft into commercial operation. Furthermore, it's believed the sector could create strong synergy with Korea's advanced battery technology and charging infrastructure.
As battery technology advances, flights could last around 4 hours and carry more passengers. That would open up new opportunities for smaller regional airports and improve connectivity to remote islands.
With the government advancing its vision for urban air mobility, electric aircraft could mark the beginning of a shift beyond more than a century of traditional aviation. Kim Jun-ho, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. In the U.S., Supreme Court has ruled that President Donald Trump cannot fire Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook for now. The decision defends the central bank's independence while leaving the door open for her removal later. Cook currently faces a lawsuit over mortgage fraud allegations, but the Supreme Court on Monday rejected Trump's bid to lift a lower court order that had blocked Cook's dismissal while that mortgage fraud lawsuit proceeds. The court ruled 5-4 against Trump as Chief Justice John Roberts, joined by one conservative and the court's 3 liberals, wrote that both the fact and the appearance of independence are central to the Fed's design, and that any change to that structure must come from Congress, not the courts. Trump had moved to fire Cook over the mortgage fraud allegations, but Cook maintains the real reason Trump wants to fire her was her refusal to support the rate cuts he demanded. In northern Germany, a man in a child custody dispute shot dead 6 staff at a shelter for mothers and children. The victims of Monday's shooting, 4 women and 2 men, all worked at the facility stayed near Hamburg. The man's 3-month-old daughter and her mother, who were in the office at the time, were unharmed. The 45-year-old man had an appointment at the facility to discuss the custody over his child. Officials said he was known to police over previous threats. Laura Zaxonomy's interior minister said the shooting appears to be for family reasons with no political motives. The suspect fled by car before police stopped the vehicle and arrested him. Russian missiles and drones killed at least 12 civilians and wounded 40 others across Ukraine on Monday in what President Volodymyr Zelensky condemns as horrific attacks. A missile struck the central city of Dnipro, killing 6 people and wounding 29, while drones hit a passenger minibus in Zaporizhia, killing 3. Airstrikes were reported across other regions and left people without power. Zelensky renewed his plea for Europe to develop anti-ballistic missile defenses. The attacks come as Ukraine's expanding drone strikes have caused fuel shortages inside Russia, a problem that Russia's President Vladimir Putin acknowledged Sunday while ruling out any concessions to end the war. A fossil that sat forgotten in a drawer in England for 40 years has turned out to be the first dinosaur bone ever found in Antarctica. Scientists found the specimen on James Ross Island in 1985 but could not identify it, so it was stored in the collection of the British Antarctic Survey in Cambridge. Paleontologists on Monday confirmed it is a tailbone from a Titanosaurus, a long-necked plant-eating dinosaur. The Antarctic dinosaur is estimated at about 7 meters long, far smaller than the biggest Titanosaurus, which reached 35 meters. The creature would have lived around 82 million years ago. Chu Ji-han, Arirang News.
Today marks the final day of June, and summer heat really made itself felt across the country. We're also expecting scattered showers through tonight, mainly across inland regions. Rainfall will range from 5 to 40 millimeters across most central regions and Jeollabuk-do province, with up to 50 millimeters in the inland and mountainous areas of Gangwon-do province. Gyeongsang-do provinces could see 5 to 20 millimeters of rain. So if you're heading home later, don't forget your umbrella. Showers will continue across parts of Gyeonggi-do and western Gangwon-do provinces through Thursday. And Jeju Island will continue to see frequent rounds of rain as bands of rain clouds repeatedly move over the island. As for temperatures, Seoul will start the day at 22 degrees Celsius, Daegu at 20 degrees, Gyeongju at 19 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul will get up to 33 degrees, Daejeon 32, Busan 25 degrees. Looking ahead, inland regions will remain hot during the day, with highs staying around 30 degrees Celsius over the next few days. Now here's a look at the weather around the world.
That brings us to the end of the Daily Report for this Tuesday. Coming up next is our daily panel session, so do stay with us and thank you for now.